Why is Jesus the only way to heaven? Can't other sincere believers be accepted too?
Push the boys!
Exactly, Dave. Asking the fire questions in here. If there is a God who can see into people's hearts and he knows what they mean by their worship, he will accept them based on their purity, the purity of their devotion, right? Who are you to judge someone else's religious practice, Dave? Oh man, you're getting to it. Just stop taking my answers. A good response to this very common objection in our world, especially in the West, where, to be intolerant and to judge ideologies as not equal is like the deepest, most unforgivable sin. The best way to answer this is to respond, I'm not the one who made this judgment. Jesus did. I'm not the one who decided this. Jesus did. So if you got a problem, you should take it up with him. I'm just saying. He said this in John 14, verse 6. And Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If Jesus is saying that he's the only way to God, and as we discussed in a prior lesson, if he rose from the dead in order for the Father to say, yes, I affirm everything Jesus said, if that actually happened in our reality, that means this statement is true too. And all the consequences that come with what Jesus said are true too. We're just the messengers of that.
Mm-hmm. One of the ways that you can answer this too is we have a promise in Scripture that seek and you will find. So in Matthew 7 through 12, and ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. This sums up the law and the prophets. So if you're truly seeking God, you will find him. He will give you the answers you need. He will dwell with you. We have that promise.
Yeah.
As we talked about when discussing God, if he is the perfect judge and judges in righteousness, then we don't have to worry about anyone being judged unfairly in their actions. So again, this is this whole setup we did before we got to these questions, is understanding who God is and how he operates, right? Thankfully, because Jesus, we don't have to guess how we are to be judged. So in John 3:18 through 21, whoever believes in him, Jesus, is not condemned, but whoever does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the Son of the name of the only Son of God. And this is the judgment in the light has come to the world. And people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to the light, so that it may be clearly seen that his works have been carried in God. So Jesus will be the one who judges our hearts before God. Therefore, to know Jesus and to believe in him is to be found in him, which is to be judged righteous before God and washed clean of all sins. And I just think that's so beautiful, because we have this beautiful promise that we can be with him. We can be perfect as he is perfect, even though we are sinners and saints at the same time. This dynamic we try and wrestle through. And I think as we show people this sinner and saint, as we show them, this is our brokenness, but we have perfect Christ within us, this is what will answer these questions better than probably most of the answers that we give, honestly, is just showing Christ through us.
Yeah.
So
the point is, if Jesus is the one judging, and he's judging as God would in perfect fairness and justice, then every single person will be judged according to what is fair, what is right, because God is the definition of justice. And if Jesus is the one who God has appointed to be our judge, then we have nothing that we should be worried about. For those who are seeking God, they will find Jesus. Mm-hmm. He promises it. He says, seek and you'll find. And he's saying that if you believed in If you decide not to believe, that's fine. You stand condemned already. But for those who are coming into the light, they will recognize that their works are carried out in God because they've come to Jesus. Right? He's making the argument that I'm the one who's going to bring you your righteousness, but I'm also the one who's going to judge you righteous. By coming to me, it will be fulfilled. It will be done, not only justly, but in righteousness and in fairness. Sorry, I'm just using a lot of buzzwords, but all that to say, it's the gospel message. Mm-hmm. Any person, regardless of your ethnic, socio-political, religious, historic background, it doesn't matter. Anyone and everyone is eligible to come to Jesus for this redemption, for this forgiveness, right? And if he's claiming to be the only way to the Father, that's the only path. He's saying that means he's right. But that doesn't mean that path isn't open to you just as much as it is open to us. It's open to everyone. But this is where some people will object, and they'll give this very popular parable. It's called The Blind Man and the Elephant. I'm sure y'all have heard of it because it's very popular when discussing this. But I'll tell the story and see if this sounds familiar. The first blind man put his hand out and touched the side of an elephant and said, "How smooth! An elephant is like a wall." The second blind man put out his hand and touched the trunk of the elephant. "How round! An elephant is like a snake." The third blind man put out his hand and touched the tusk of the elephant. "How sharp! An elephant is like a spear." The fourth blind man put out his hand and touched the leg of the elephant. "How tall! An elephant is like a tree." The fifth blind man reached out his hand and touched the ear of the elephant. "How wide! An elephant is like a fan." And the sixth blind man put out his hand and touched the tail of the elephant. "How thin! An elephant is like a rope." And an argument ensued, each blind man thinking his own perspective of the elephant was the correct one. Does that sound familiar? Basically, the objection is that this parable is meant to show everyone in the world, every religious perspective has something right about God. They're grasping one part of who God is. But if we had the full perspective of who God was, we'd see everyone is right. Everyone is right about God. We just have different areas where we disagree. Even in some ways that might seem contradictory. Elephants can't both, they can't both be a tree and thin. They can't both be sharp and smooth. But yet, there's these different contradictory things in religions. It's okay. God knows that that's the case. It's all going to be all right. No. Because this parable, again, is often interpreted that way. But the first issue with this is that most contradictions between religions can't be reconciled. There is no way to reconcile them. For example, atheists or elephantists would simply be irreconcilably wrong that God exists or the elephant exists, right? If they were the blind man and they refused to touch the elephant and say that the elephant doesn't exist, they'd be irreconcilably wrong. There's no way to say, oh, so the elephant does and does not exist at the same time. Secondly, this parable presupposes that there is an objective elephant and that he has been explained by one person in a position to do so. So what people always miss about this parable is they stop it early. These blind men are all guided to the Raja, or like the king of their nation, and he explains to them how they all have a part of the elephant, but if they saw the elephant, they would be able to see how they are all correct. They just only have a part of him. But that presupposes that there is someone who's able to tell these men what the truth of the elephant is. People cut this parable short in order to make their point, but if they gave the whole story, they'd see someone has to interpret for these men what the truth is in order for them to see it. We may be blind to the full truth about God, but Jesus is not. And he claimed to have the full truth about God because he claimed to not only represent God, but to be God's only son. So Jesus is saying that, yeah, this parable is wrong, the way at least it's interpreted. He's saying it's wrong, and again, if he's the one who rose from the dead in confirmation that God is saying, yes, he's right, then that makes this interpretation of all world religions being correct irreconcilably wrong. John 1, verse 18, no one has ever seen God. All of us are the blind men. The only God who's at the Father's side, which in context is the Word, Jesus, has made him known. If Jesus is in a position where he's the Raja, where he's the one who can tell us what the truth about the elephant is, we need to be listening to him. And there's no way that all world religions are correct if Jesus is saying they're not.